Their quest to reign, an analysis of the influence of power throughout the Italian Renaissance. And in this video, I'm going to be showing examples of literature from the Italian Renaissance, such as the Decameron and the Prince. I'm going to be showing examples from modern day history to show how power has creeped into the modern day. I'm going to be showing modern art and how it has been affected in music and TV. So my first example is going to be from the Decameron, and it's from the 10th day, 10th story. And in this story, it takes place with a powerful man named Gualtieri, who he's powerful, but he doesn't have any kids, doesn't have a wife, and people are trying to get him to get married, but he only wants to do so if he has to pick his wife. So he goes into the village, he meets a girl, beautiful girl, talks to the father, and then after that, they agree, and she becomes his wife. However, he does not trust her. He wants to test her loyalty. So he puts her through these brutal trials of, are you really loyal to me or not? He takes his kids away. He says he met another wife. He wants a divorce. And as we can see from the quote on the screen, he would therefore do everything in his power to obtain a dispensation from the Pope, enabling him to divorce Griselda and marry someone else. That's what I was just talking about, how he met someone else, but he only did that just to see how she would react. And she is completely way too good for him. And you can see how his power, he was so high on his horse that he did so many things to be able to do whatever he felt like. As you can see, he's getting something from the Pope. The Pope is of high power. Only people of other high power can talk to the Pope. And because she is from the village, she's not high social wise as Gualtieri is, that he basically gets to do whatever he wants to her, and she can't react back. Then she'll get put back in her spot, or even worse, because he had that kind of power. My second example is also from the Decameron, and it's from the 4th day, first story. And what takes place is Tancredi has a daughter that is ready to be married, but he's not, he loves her very much, but he's not ready to give her away quite yet. And she has a man lined up, but he dies. And Tancredi's he's not stressing it because, you know, he still wants to have his daughter. He's very possessive over her. So she falls in love with a man named Guiscardo, who is not a rich man. He doesn't come from a rich family. He's a poor boy. And he sneaks into her house and they meet up, and, you know, they do lovely things. They're romantic, but they have to be sneaky because if Tancredi ever found out, he would be executed. And Tancredi unfortunately does find out, and he orders Guiscardo to be killed. And as we can see from the quote, on Tancredi's orders, Guiscardo was taken prisoner by 2 guards soon after dark that very night. Just as he was emerging, hindered by the suit of leather he was wearing from the hole in the ground. So you can see he was hiding. He didn't want to be caught because he knows that it's very prohibited by Tancredi for this to happen. So as you can see, his power is using his power over his daughter and over somebody inferior to him to kill him just because he doesn't like the decision that he's making or if he's involved with his daughter. And you can see he's very possessive and he wants power over his daughter. He does love her, but at the end of the day, his decision killed his daughter because, you know, she killed herself at the end of the story because she was not able to be with Guiscardo. And what's not to talk about power in the Italian Renaissance without mentioning the Prince? And in the Prince, Niccolo Machiavelli, you know, you hear the term Machiavellian That's where it comes from. In chapter 15, he says, hence it is necessary for a prince who wishes to maintain his position to learn how to be able not to be good and to use or not use this ability according to circumstances. He's basically saying, when you are being a leader, you do not need to be good all the time, but you do need to be good sometimes. You need to have a good and fine line between I'm in power, this is my decision, I don't care if you don't like it, but you also have to get the trust of the people and go and get their respect, because then you have no following and that can start a rebellion against you. In chapter 17, as we know, Niccolo Machiavelli's throughout the story, his perfect ideal leader was Cesar Borgia. So here's a quote. He said, Cesar Borgia was considered cruel, yet his cruelty brought order to Romagna, uniting it and making it peaceful and loyal. So as you like, he's saying how if you are in charge and in power, you do not have to be the nice guy. You do not have to take orders and follow what everyone's saying under you. You can be cruel and you can lead a great nation. But as we know from the last slide, have that fine line. But Cesar Borgia did what he had to do, and Niccolo Machiavelli believes that he is the perfect ideal leader in the world. So kind of like this, modern day history, Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin was the leader of the Soviet Union, and he completely fit under the Machiavellian frame. He was always ready for war. He was totalitarian, but he also had the support of his people. He was totalitarian, but he was for women's rights. He did things that the people supported. He was very war ready. He did not care about more things more than war. He defeated the Nazis in World War II because he trained and he made sure his people were ready for war. But he also had that fine line where I said he was totalitarian, had women's rights, but he also had the gulag, which was terrible what he did to his people and what he did to other people. But, that fine line of power. He was also well learned in politics. Machiavelli says, in order to be a great leader, you have to be well learned in politics. And he was, he was a part of the Allied powers in World War II. It wasn't a stupid man, but he did do some things which were questionable, and is why he is known for some reason as a great man, and if you look into what he did, he's a bad man. So here's some modern art, The Sopranos. The Sopranos takes place in New Jersey during the 1990s and 2000s, where it talks about the mafia and the mob throughout that. We follows the character Tony Soprano. He is by far the most Machiavellian character we've seen on television. He uses his fear to invoke his people to do what he asks. He, as we say, is it better to be feared or loved? You'd rather be feared, because that is what happens. It's fear is sustained by dread of punishment. So they're not going to want to betray him. And he makes examples of this. He kills his own best friend that he's known forever because he became an informant, and that's a threat to him and his family. But he wants to maintain that power. He wants to be the leader of the family. And we can see also that the mafia and the Medici family, because the Medici family was really high in power, and the mafia is high in power and family. But obviously the difference: Medici family, a head of a nation; the mafia is illegal. It's organized crime, criminal activity. But yeah, Tony Soprano, very Machiavellian. He led his people with an iron fist. So in modern art, here's some music. Tupac Shakur recorded an album called The Don Illuminati Machiavelli. That's what he went as for a little time. And basically, we have Machiavelli, like Niccolo Machiavelli, whose book was about how to be a true prince and a true ruler. Machiavelli is all about how to be a true thug. And because at the time, Tupac was looked at as bad because he had tattoos. He was not a good guy. So he wanted to explain to people what being a thug really meant and how to be a thug in order to thrive in society. They use political references for their reasonings too, both Machiavelli and Machiavelli. They both have relation to the church. The Vatican deemed the prince to be against the church. They banned it. And Tupac also was not a fan of the church. As you can see, he uses him being crucified like Jesus Christ on the cross, and they deem that to be disrespectful to the Catholic Church. And Machiavelli and Tupac were both accused of crimes. Tupac was accused of a crime by a police officer, which made him want to write these stories about how to be a thug and how to, they're not with you, they're against you. So they're trying to give a guide to what you can do to, thrive in society. And as we know, Niccolo Machiavelli was accused by the Medici family and lost his position of power due to that. So in conclusion, we learned that throughout the Italian Renaissance, the influence of power is major. We know that power can go to people's heads so fast and it can cause them to make decisions that are irrational and unfair. We've seen it through the Prince, the Decameron, Stalin, Tupac, and the Sopranos, Tony Soprano TV show. And that's all I have to share. Thank you for watching.